Hello everybody, welcome back to the Formula 1 Fallout and to the Will Dixon YouTube channel. We're going to be going through the Monaco Grand Prix, which happened on Sunday. Chaos in the first, hour and a half, and then pretty mundane for the last half, but any chaos at all is good for Monaco, frankly, in terms of the race anyway. So we're going to go through the big talking points of this one. We're going to be talking about Sergio Perez, we're going to be talking about Ferrari, and we're going to be talking about the just general kerfuffle that happened at the start and my thoughts on it. But yeah, let's get into this one. So if you don't know what happened, Sergio Perez got his first win of the season, beating Carlos Sainz to second place. Max Verstappen rounded out the podium. Charles Leclerc, after starting on pole position, ended up in fourth after a bit of a strategy blunder from Ferrari. George Russell fifth, Lando Norris sixth, Fernando Alonso holding out Lewis Hamilton for seventh. Valtteri Bottas and Sebastian Vettel rounded off the points. We're going to get into Ferrari in a minute because I think they were the main talking point about Monaco and a really big missed opportunity. And I think it's starting to raise the questions about whether Ferrari are blowing this yet again. But firstly, I actually want to touch on the race winner and Sergio Perez because I think it's time to start talking about Sergio as a potential title contender, which is certainly not something I thought I would be saying pretty much at any point in the season. In my predictions, I had him finishing sixth in the World Championship. I didn't think he had the measure of Max at all. I think last year showed he was certainly the number 2 driver. But this year, I think he's been almost there with Max in terms of pace, and he's been unlucky on a few occasions. And at Monaco, it was an absolute masterful drive all weekend. Of course, in qualifying, he had the bit of a smash at the end there. But apart from that, he's driven absolutely faultlessly. And I think it's time we start talking about him being in the conversation for being in the race for the title. A third of the way into the season, only 15 points off Max, and showing that he does have the speed. Compared to last year, he certainly looks a lot closer to him and it's far more competitive. And he seems to have taken to the car maybe more easily than Max has, whilst Max certainly has the outright speed and just has that. Christian Horner says it all the time and it makes me want to vomit every time I hear it. But it is true that Max has this kind of special little thing, this special kind of extra that you have with the great drivers. Sergio, I think, has been more consistent and has shown a greater understanding of the car and is seemingly able to extract a lot of performance out of it. He's already got a pole position this year and was unlucky not to win that race in Saudi Arabia and then was on the wrong side of team orders in Spain. So it shows that he's certainly in the conversation and he's certainly giving Max something to be concerned about. With a third of the season gone and to be 15 points off him, a race win under his belt as well, this is very promising from Sergio, and hopefully he's going to keep this form up for the rest of the season. Yes, in Monaco, he benefited enormously from Ferrari's strategy blunder, but I've been really surprised by what we've seen from him, and if he keeps up this consistency, he keeps up this form, I don't really see why he can't be the world champion this year. We've got Baku coming up next, which is traditionally a strong track for Sergio. He's got podiums there for Force India in the past, of course, got his first win for Red Bull there last year, his only win of that season. If he has a strong Baku, he could really be up there, and then you start to think about team orders, you start to think about who Red Bull could be prioritising there. I've been very impressed. I've been so impressed by Sergio. I think he's driving at the best that he ever has done. And, he knows as long as he's in a Red Bull, he could have an opportunity to win the title. And I think he's starting to show that he's able to take that chance and prove that he is the guy to be in that car. I remember at the start of the season, the kind of speculation was, could Sergio survive in that Red Bull seat? Could he be there for the long term? There's so many Red Bull Academy graduates waiting in the wing, let alone Pierre Gasly at AlphaTauri and what Red Bull are going to do with him. But right now, would you change Sergio? No, you wouldn't. He's been absolutely phenomenal this year. Did anyone else see as well after the race that there's a video going around about Checo? I think he whispered to Horner as they went onto the podium, it's like, I signed too early or something. So has Checo actually already signed his contract for next year? Be interesting to see what comes out in the next few days, but I haven't really seen too much apart from that. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. He's driving out of his skid at the minute, and hopefully he keeps it up, because that would be great to see Checo up there. Imagine Checo wins the championship. That'd be pretty awesome. That'd be pretty awesome. But yes, well done, Sergio. But, of course, he did benefit enormously from an enormous strategy blunder of epic proportions from Ferrari. And it's starting to raise the questions for me are, is Ferrari blowing this again? And when I say again, I mean more in reference to 2017 and 2018, because I feel like we're seeing a very similar pattern here, where Ferrari start the season very strongly, probably out of the box have designed the best car, but they ran out of steam development-wise pretty quickly, and then they missed the chances themselves, strategy blunders, not prioritising the right driver, costing them vital points, and then they just kind of fall away. And with Red Bull certainly having the faster car, really, I think, on most tracks, and then Ferrari getting 1-2 in qualifying in Monaco, that was an enormous opportunity for them. And they blew it. Absolutely blew it. Charles Leclerc was completely in control of that race, starting from pole position, pulling a gap in front of Carlos, and he looked as though he was going to streak into the distance despite the wet conditions and despite his bad luck in Monaco. But I mean, even then it still got him, didn't it? The main question of the race from there on in was, could you nail the switch from wet to dry? And Ferrari got it wrong. They got it so wrong. So if you don't know what happened, they left Leclerc out there one lap too long. And the reason for this is because when Perez came into the pitch, they were talking to Carlos Sainz, trying to cover off Perez. But Carlos didn't want to go from the full wet tyres to the intermediates. He wanted to wait until it was dry. And apparently that took so long that it left it too late to call Leclerc into the pit one lap after Perez. So he had to wait another time round. And then by the time Leclerc went in and switched to the intermediate tyres, Perez had jumped him. Carlos Sainz had to push back on their calls as well, so it wasn't just Leclerc that was having trouble with Ferrari's strategy. He didn't want to go from full wets to intermediates and only to go to slicks probably not too long afterwards. And then when they did box him, they called in Leclerc as well, right on the last corner. And then when he pulled into the pit lane, they told him to stay out. So nothing Charles could do there. So unfortunate for him. Had to wait longer to be serviced in the pit box, and then he found he'd lost position to Verstappen as well. And Sainz was very unlucky as well. Nicky Latifi blundered his outlap, which saw him overcut by Checo. And then that was it. Leclerc was in fourth, and he was absolutely furious. Listening to that team radio afterwards, you could tell he was so angry because, I think he said it himself, he did nothing wrong. He was absolutely in control of that race. And that really should have been his, and a win in Monaco and a good bounce back after after the DNF, of course, in Spain, and Red Bull looking like they're on top of Ferrari at the minute. He really needed that win, and they threw it away. Absolutely threw this away. As I said, this looked like the first time in a few races now that Ferrari had the speed over Red Bull in the race, and of course it's in Monaco. You're not going to pass, especially in the dry. And how many more races are they going to get those chances? I don't know, because it does seem Red Bull have the measure of them, and Ferrari don't bring some upgrades and bring some upgrades quickly, then Red Bull really could streak off into the distance here, and that could be their chance for the World Championship gone. I think really big questions have to be asked for by Ferrari if they're going to claw this back, because I felt that was one of those ones where if they get beaten to it by Red Bull, they're going to look back at the end of the year and think, Monaco, screwed up big time. So yeah, let me know what you think about Ferrari's strategy blunder in the comments below. Am I being a bit over dramatic here? Because I think that could be one of those ones that you look back on and think, oh, that was such a missed opportunity. Such a missed opportunity for them. The final thing I really wanted to talk about with Monaco was, to be honest, more what happened with the start. And what happened with the FIA, the stewards, and the general decision making. So what happened is that right at the start of the race, they delayed it by about 10 minutes as the rain started to come in. But then it turned into an even longer delay of another 10 minutes added onto there. Then we started formation laps behind the safety car. We had 2 formation laps before an enormous heavy rain downpour and rivers cascading the track. Saw the whole thing red flagged, and then we didn't really get going again for another half an hour or so, another 40 minutes. So the race really started an hour later than it should have done. And whilst I understood the decisions that were taken, I think we really need to start looking at how we deal with weather in Formula One. Because I was just looking at this and thinking, God, this is just like Spa last year, wasn't it? Just kind of waiting, and eventually a decision's made. I think, I'm going to start firstly in defence of the FIA. Because in Formula One, there's this rule where all your tyres have to be fitted 3 minutes before the start, and everyone was going to fit dry tyres because at that point the track was dry. But then that late shower really screwed them over, and they're not just going to send them all out there on slick tyres because they're all just going to barrel into each other into turn one. So they delayed it a bit to allow them to change tyres and allow to change the wets and effectively have a wet start. However, that's something that you only need to push back about 5 minutes. In my personal opinion, about 5 minutes before the start, I think they said we're delaying it. So, push it back 5 minutes, fit the tyres, and then just go as normal. Why did we have to make it 10 minutes and then another 10 minutes after that, and then we had to have 2 formation laps, and then we had to red flag it? I think this was something that Chris Medland said on Twitter, which is that Formula One seemed to have a habit of turning something that could be a very short delay into something that is an enormous one. And by the time we had the delay, the rain kept falling. And it kept falling. But it wasn't even that bad at the very start. I think they were saying in commentary that it still looked like intermediate conditions. It was hardly warranting, 2 formation laps and full wet tyre start here. And because the rain kept falling and there weren't 20 Formula One cars going around with those big treaded tyres, they weren't actually clearing the water away. So if anything, it just delayed it all even more. Now this is all fine to say in hindsight, but considering what happened at Spa last year, where I think there was a consensus that at the very start of the race, you could have got something underway, only to just keep waiting and wait the rain to fall a bit longer. I'm just thinking, what was going on? I mean, me and my friends who were watching were like, what are we waiting for? Because, push it back 5 minutes, fit the intermediate tyres and get going. If the rain falls heavier afterwards, by all means red flag it. But don't just keep waiting and pushing this back, because we're almost in danger of, just waiting until it's completely ideal conditions to race anyway. I think part of the frustration came from the fact that, it's Monaco. The race traditionally is a bit of a snooze fest because it's very difficult to pass. Having a wet Monaco race, though, is very exciting. It's drivers really on the edge of car control and really having to, just try and keep it out the barriers, let alone go quickly. And I felt we were denied that a bit, and it was a little bit disappointing. I know we had half of it was a wet race until, it went to dry. But, even so, we seem to be falling into a bit of a habit with Formula One where we're kind of tiptoeing around with the conditions, and I just don't think's right. Now, of course, safety does have to come into this. There was times I remember seeing the last corner, there was just a river of water, and of course you can't race in those kind of conditions. But you're right at the very start when it's just a bit of rain, and if you'd actually started the race on time or even just 5 minutes later, you would have cleared a lot of the water by the time that happened. And then, sure, if it completely downpours and it's undrivable, then by all means red flag the race and wait for it to ease up. But don't just have this constant of delaying and waiting for the ideal conditions, because if we're going to do that, we may as well just bin it off. It's going to be a wet race entirely. There's no point in doing it. So I think we need to look into how we make these decisions, and especially the timing of these decisions, because there was that thing as well where teams have to be told 10 minutes before that we're going out. So it's waiting until there's a window, then we wait another 10 minutes, and then we go out. I think it needs to be made a bit snappier. They need to be a bit more decisive with what was going on. So yeah, they're my general thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below about how F1 should be dealing with wet races, because, I think we should be, allowing a little bit of flexibility and, just loosening the straps here to be able to get races underway like this, rather than just waiting for some ideal weather conditions. So yeah, there are my thoughts on the Monaco Grand Prix. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And, you know, as a final word as well, of course, this is Monaco's last year currently. Hopefully it'll be re-signed, because I think you've got to keep Monaco. As much as it wouldn't be signed on as it was today, because it's not really that fit for purpose, I really hope we see some kind of solution brought up, because missing Monaco, for me personally, would be an enormous gap on the F1 calendar. Let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I will see you later. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.